and gentlemen, welcome back to QBSN, the podcast, episode 8. Little bit of a different setup today, but that's okay because we got a stacked desk. We're going to start off with Kat Jablonski, QBSN social media manager, Zach Nath, Q30 beat reporter for men's ice hockey. Over, back, right corner,
the man
who's already been here, Anthony Rossi.
Do you want me to just say my titles at this point? It's just insane.
He's got too much stuff.
I got too much stuff. QBSN social media manager, then volleyball and women's ice beat reporter. There you go.
So we're on Davila.
And then Davila, the photography, QBSN photography manager. So a great episode for us today. We got Breaking the Ice. We're talking women's hockey, then a men's ice hockey. Then we got Rebound Rally. We're talking men's basketball, Legends Classic Tournament. And then we're going to end with volleyball. So let's start off. Breaking the Ice, a fan favorite. Women's hockey, 0-2 against Princeton. The 3-4 overtime loss. And then the 0-2 loss. And then they go to the Nutmeg Classic where they get third. They lost to UConn 3-4 in the first. And then they beat Sacred Heart 2-0 in the second game. So let's start with that. What are your guys' initial thoughts on kind of a slow bump in the road for the women's ice hockey team?
I mean, it's kind of tough for the women's ice hockey team right now as they're in, like, the heart of their schedule. I mean, me and Davila were there for the Nutmeg Classic. I can't say the same for the Princeton games because I was in Fairfield watching the volleyball team, which we'll talk about later. But against Princeton, they played a really good Princeton team that I believe is ranked now. That's a good Princeton team. Mackenzie Alexander, Izzy Wonder, great players. I had a feeling that they were going to lose to Princeton in both games because they got swept by Princeton last year. And then for the Nutmeg Classic, they played a good game against UConn, even though that they lost, but they kind of just beat themselves. And then Sacred Heart was just kind of a snoozer game. They won 2-0 against a not up to par Sacred Heart team with Quinnipiac. What would you say, Davila?
Well, I mean, that Princeton team, like, I just want to talk about again. Like, they beat Yale. Yale is good. They split the season series to Yale. Yale is a good team. They're ranked. We all know that. They also had a 1-0 win over Clarkson, so that was really good. And then they took that momentum on the Quinnipiac, and they swept Quinnipiac like we talked about. In the Nutmeg Classic, it's just more of the same things that we kind of talked about there, too, is I think – that was a really good back-and-forth UConn game. I feel like Quinnipiac kind of dug themselves their own holes in that game, though. Yeah. And then they came back and they beat the brakes off a shoe. So I thought it was a good comeback win.
I wouldn't say beat the brakes off.
You'd like to see a little bit more goals in the net, but when you have 58 shots on goal, you'd like to see a couple more go in. But sometimes you run into a good goalie, and that's just kind of what happened that night.
58 shots on goal, 14 of which came from Caitlin LaMarche against Sacred Heart. I think the biggest thing from an outsider's perspective looking at this team is during that 3-game losing streak, she scored against or had a point, an assist against UConn. But the last 3 games before that were all conference games. Clarkson in both games against Princeton held scoreless, no points.
Nothing.
And if Caitlin LaMarche, especially this year, isn't producing points, this team isn't winning games. And that's really how it's been all year. And then for her to get the 2 goals against Sacred Heart, especially 14 shots, not very efficient to do so, but this team kind of is going how Caitlin LaMarche and Felicia Frank go.
Yeah, I mean, completely. In her last 4 games before the Nutmeg Classic, she had one assist in those 4 games, and they kind of hit the roadblock there. They had that 0-0 tie technically against Clarkson, although they lost in the shootout, but that doesn't matter for ECAC play or record-wise. No. And then they moved on to Princeton, and they lost the weekend there, but then they come back in the UConn. I believe she had an assist in the UConn game, and then she had the 2 goals. So you look and you see a little bit more success, but not completely what you'd like to see out of that weekend.
I want to jump in here. I have 2 questions. We're going to start with Friday's game, 5th seed Cornell, big game.
Well, now they're at 8. They dropped 3 spots, which is a crazy drop, by the way. Mm-hmm. They lost 1 game to Vermont, and I think that's good for Quinnipiac because they're on their heels. I didn't mean to interrupt you a little bit there. But Cornell's on their heels, and they're playing against a Quinnipiac team that can very well beat them. But, yeah.
Do you think their struggles will continue? Quinnipiac's struggles will continue? Or do you think they're going to have a bounce-back game?
I mean, I kind of said my opinion, so.
Yeah, I think, honestly, going into it, still Quinnipiac is remaining at number 9 in the country when it comes to being ranked. I think that they'll be able to bounce back and build off their momentum with Sacred Heart. I mean, currently, history-wise, they're currently 14-0 with 19 wins and 0 losses against Sacred Heart, so that's always going to be a huge morale booster when it comes for them. So moving forward, going into this Cornell game, I just think that it's going to be a matter of getting the puck into the back of the net, currently with 14 wins, 23 losses, and 8 ties against Cornell. So I think if they can keep the momentum from Sacred Heart, and even the UConn game, they didn't play bad against UConn whatsoever. That was, at that time, before the new polls came out, it was a number 8 versus a number 9 matchup. It was going to be a tight game no matter what when it came out of the gate. So I think that keeping up with the momentum, trying to get the puck in the back of the net, and not just relying on LaMarche is what we've been saying.
Yeah, I think that that's the general consensus, is that Kaylin LaMarche can't be your only goal scorer. Mm-hmm. I think I might have said that when I was on here back a couple of weeks ago, and it stays consistent, is that it cannot be Kaylin LaMarche that is scoring all the goals.
No, you said, Patch, just to clarify, you said, do you think the struggles will continue for women's ice hockey?
Like their little dip in the road.
Dip. I do think they will continue because they're facing Cornell. You said number 8 ranked now today. They're winless in their last 5 games against Cornell, and that only non-loss was a 3-3 shootout tie last year, which I guess is a promising result. That was also at home. I think Cornell is still a better team than Quinnipiac, and the way that this team has been the last couple of years, it started out hot, maybe not as good as they started this past fall, but they kind of slow down a little bit, and right now they're slowing down. I don't see them beating Cornell necessarily this weekend. I think it'll be a good game. I think they're 2 very closely matched up teams, but I do still just think that the Big Red are better than the Bobcats.
I 100% agree with you. I think the biggest thing, too, is we're not talking enough about this Colgate team, too. It's another ranked matchup. You go up to that area of Ithaca and Hamilton, that's a really, really tough road trip, and this team struggles up there all time against Colgate and Cornell. Like you mentioned against Cornell, Quinnipiac recently lost to Cornell 2 years ago in the ECAC hockey quarterfinals in Ithaca. 3-game series up there, and they couldn't come up with a victory in either game. They struggle on the road, especially against Colgate and Cornell, and Annalise Bergman, Cornell's goalie, is pretty much the only thing between Felicia Frank and goalie of the year. And honestly, I think that that's it. Annalise Bergman is going to be the biggest factor in that series.
The 2 games that Frank played against Cornell and Colgate last year, against Colgate, 4-1 loss, against Cornell, 4-1 loss. So the 2 games Frank has played against those 2 teams have been 4-1 losses, and already she's been great all year long. I believe a 1.47 goals against average. But in the last few games, outside of that Sacred Heart game and then that Clarkson 0-0 shootout game, it's been 2 goals or more.
Well, the team hasn't really been helping her in this game.
That is true.
Cass said that specifically. The team is not helping Felicia Frank.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how they come out of the gates in Cornell once you take the trip up there. You know, it's a big time game. It's, 9 versus 7, you said? 8?
8 versus 9.
8 versus 9. It's going to be another big game.
Another
like
8 versus
game.
9.
Like the UConn game, it's like they usually play up to their opponents and play down to the better, worse off teams. So it's going to be interesting to see how they come out the gates. And then obviously you have to go and play Colgate after that. So it's gonna be a hard weekend to say the very least. Outside of that,
if you're gonna be goaltender of the year, though, you're gonna have to steal your team some games against some good teams, and this is a weekend to prove. Hey, before you get a month off, basically from game action, go steal at least a game for your team.
Yeah, no,
biggest thing with Cornell too is they like to put the puck on the net. They will shoot from anywhere, point, sidewall, in the slot, behind the net almost sometimes. They will get pucks on goal and try and crash the net hard. So you have to put bodies in front, clear out the front of the net so that you're able to have Felicia Frank see that puck, which is what the team is struggling to do right now.
Yeah, and I think that NAFA made a really good point in the fact that they don't play, and after this weekend, they're not playing till January 2nd when they're over in Ireland. So in order to pick up the wins this weekend, they have to make sure that they're clearing the way and making sure for Frank that she can make those saves and that they actually are counting. Because if she's making the saves, she can make as many as she wants to. But if they're not going to score and they're not going to get the puck in the back of the net, then what's the point?
And let's not forget that she was splitting time with Kaylee Doyle last year, so it also plays a factor into, like, goalies are very streaky sometimes. They catch a hot streak, they catch a cold streak, and it really depends on, like, how good you're playing down the stretch. And she's been playing pretty solid against top-ranked teams. I mean, like they said, she wasn't getting any help. She made the saves that she needed to, though, in that UConn game, so that really showed on the paper and showed there. But I would argue that it's even better that she's getting a lot of more minutes now, and she's getting all the playing time because she's catching a hot streak, and she's going to take this into ECAC play.
We also forgot to mention that this weekend was the return of Jade Barbariti, and she did not play up to standards this weekend at all. And it could just be getting back into the swing of things, which is completely fine. And, like, for the team, I don't think they're expecting her to hop right in and be like, all right, go score a hat trick, just like Kaylin does every single game. Good to see her back in the lineup, wondering what her role is going to be like. Cass Turner switched up the lines completely for Sacred Heart. They kind of worked. I like the fact that Bryn Pryor and Kaylin LaMarche are playing together again because they had so much success last year. But putting Barbariti down the middle of that line is kind of interesting, to say the least.
LaMarche had the 2 goals from that game, too. I'm not sure if Pryor had any secondary
I would
primary
say that
assists, but
I'd say that she played a lot better than she had at the beginning of the season.
I know that line made a big impact. And then it was interesting to see that they put Jarvis, was it Jarvis? Down
Hulk
to
on the third line.
Hulk to the third line, which was interesting. But it kind of, like, spreads out the talent, and it's like you want to get a little bit more depthy, and that gave them a little bit more depth going into that game. And it showed that they were able to roll 3 lines, four lines at times out there, and that was very interesting to see because normally Quinnipiac's been a top-heavy team in the past.
You had a second question, right?
I did. Let's go to the other locker room and look at men's ice hockey, who's on a 6-game win streak. They had their ECAC weekend. They beat Clarkson 4-1 with a Pelosi hat trick. St. Lawrence they beat 4-2. Holy Cross, a close, high-scoring game. They won 7-6. And then Stonehill 3-2. So why don't we first talk about the ECAC weekend with Clarkson and St. Lawrence?
Yeah, I thought it was a very good weekend for them overall. I think that, especially from the scoring standpoint, 8 goals across the 2 games, especially against Clarkson, who they had struggled with significantly last year and then even the year prior. I just think that they still seem like a team that at times will let their opponents stay in games, and we saw that in non-conference, not to move too far ahead, with the Holy Cross and Stonehill. But even in the Clarkson game, taking penalties late, something that they're going to have to clean up as they continue on during the season. But overall, for a conference weekend to go 2-0, especially after they started with an overtime win and a loss against Yale, I think that it was a promising start at home.
Yeah, I also want to emphasize what you said about how they keep letting these teams stay in the game. I mean, we saw Davila when you and I went to Brown. They were up for the majority of that game, out shooting them like crazy, and then all of a sudden in the third period, it's a tied game. And it, with the lone goal obviously coming in the second period for Brown, and then 2 coming in the third period to tie the game, it just, while yes, Wilmer got the OT win and pushed them forward, I just don't know going forward how this team is going to really be able to lock down these wins in the third period when the third period is historically where they keep collapsing.
Well, they need to start playing to their level against ECAC teams and just teams in general that they think that they're better than, because it gets in their minds that they're just better than them and they don't play to the standard that they usually play to. Because after the Brown game, we saw them come out against BU and they scored, what was it, two first period goals? Three first period goals unanswered, and then you go into the second, you let one up. You go into the third, you get 2 more, and then they score 1, but that doesn't matter. The game's out of reach at that point in the third, and that's a ranked team that they came out against, and they beat the brakes off of them technically again. And then you go to Clarkson, you let them score 1 goal, you score 4. You go to St. Lawrence, I believe, how many shots did they have in that St. Lawrence game?
They had a lot of shots in that game,
they were
especially early.
They were pampering that goalie. He's like an unsung
hero.
51
shots.
Yeah,
51 shots.
Unsung hero.
That looks like a Quinnipiac women's ice hockey versus Sacred Heart game.
I want to see the save percentage for Colin Wynn. Colin Wynn had 47 saves.
That was his first collegiate start, too.
Yeah.
His first collegiate start. I'm just double-checking the math here.
Well,
we got the calculator up.
922
really
save percentage.
Dude,
he gave up 4
wild.
goals.
It doesn't tell the story of what happened there. It doesn't tell the story of what happened in that game.
Like he played well,
he
too.
kept them in that game. He kept them in that game. And even in that St. Lawrence game, you'd like to see a few more of those pucks go into the back of the net if you're Quinnipiac. Obviously, you know, it didn't happen because it was like, what was it? The shot selection maybe wasn't as good. More shots from the point and stuff.
Rand Pecknell's talked all year about how, especially earlier in the year, they were taking a lot of shots. They weren't getting those shots on goal. So even in that game, they scored 51 shots. 4 goals on 51 shots isn't necessarily the greatest. But I guess the promising sign is they did get 51 shots on goal. But yeah, it's just like getting players in front of the net, getting deflections, taking good shots. But I think that was probably the game plan when you're going against the goaltender making his first NCAA start. Pepper as many shots on him as you can.
Yeah, I mean, they followed the game plan and you came out with the 4-2 win, but you like to see them get a little bit more at the end of that still even.
Yeah. I mean, you guys touched on it a little bit, is that they can't play down to teams that are, quote, quote, weaker than them. You look at the Holy Cross game in specific because this was I was at home watching this game with my father. Literally, we were prepping Thanksgiving dinner for Thursday because you have to prep in a day in advance.
Yeah, of course.
This is Wednesday night.
And I'm hearing Phil Gibaleo screaming in the third period about goal after goal after goal, and I'm like, what is happening right now? Because I just have it on in the background.
That was an 8-goal third period with 5 from Holy Cross and 3 from Quinnipiac.
Well, Quinnipiac started off 3-0
yes.
in the first.
The entire game.
If you're a Quinnipiac fan or if you're a fan in general and you see a ranked team take a 3-0 lead against Holy Cross, you're like, okay, well, this game's over. Let me turn it off.
Yeah.
If you happen to catch like an ESPN notification or an Instagram post from Quinnipiac men's ice hockey or Holy Cross men's ice hockey in the third period, you're like, what happened?
I mean,
well, that's exactly my point.
What
That was exactly
happened?
because that was me. I was scrolling through Instagram, saw the thing, and I was like, "Oh, perfect, we're winning right now." I turned off the game because,
Bobcats.
in fairness to Holy Cross, they are the best team in the Atlantic.
Okay.
So Holy Cross is a good team. They might make the NCAA tournament.
There's the rivalry that some people like to call between Holy Cross and Quinnipiac.
Yeah.
So it is a rivalry game.
The second game they played.
Even the takeaway. If you're looking at the notifications and you see 3-0, three goals pampered on early in the first period, right? And then you go, you take a little time, you come back to Instagram, you come back to your ESPN app,
all of a
and you
sudden
look
I'm
at it in the third
seeing
period,
a
and you see that it's 6-6.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. And you see that it's 6-6, and you're like, what just happened?
Well, and then Marinoff had to make a huge save in overtime. They almost lost 6-7.
Also, you wouldn't have thought that they scored 5 in the third.
in the third.
Alone.
In the third period.
But that's also why Coach Pecknell wasn't necessarily sure that they were going to beat BU after a 3-goal first period because then they went 2-2 in the third, or excuse me, in the second before they Quinnipiac only had 1 in the third.
And the Bobcats scored 3 straight in the third too, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
What is
They
this?
blew 2 3-goal leads.
Yes.
How do you do
we
that?
talked about how streaky this team was, and that just kind of showed right there in the past. I mean, and then you get the 7-6 win, so it's good to see that you still come out on top there. But I mean,
And
all in all,
and Sorbonne finally got on the goal sheet
yes,
too.
finally.
Yeah, it's good for him that he finally gets the monkey off the back and finally scores. Also, Matt DeBoer had a hat trick in that game.
It's great to see Ethan Wittenbach stepping up in a game where they needed
Forward
a
of the
couple
week.
goals.
Not only
points.
let's talk about the
Or not
entire
forward of the
first
week,
year
rookie of the
line.
week,
No,
whatever.
yeah,
because
definitely.
the entire first year line has been out of this world when it comes to this year. It's giving the 2022-2023 team.
I don't know.
Boy.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Oh, boy.
I don't know if I go that
The
far,
first
especially
years
from
are
first year
impressive.
lines.
Okay.
I mean, the first
but
years are impressive.
they're impressive this year.
I
mean,
do agree.
Wittenbach looked great. Vidicek's looked great over the past couple games.
Yeah.
I mean, they've
Well-
risen to the occasion when you need them, and they've shown that they're able to perform on this stage.
Well, Vidicek has a goal in each of the last 5 matchups and 2 against Stonehill. He has the longest goal-scoring streak across the entire country, not just in the ECAC. It's across the entire country, and he's a first year.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for that line is just the continuity they have. The three of them playing together. I mean, Matthew Lansing only has 6 points, 3 goals, 3 assists.
Yeah.
He's one of the better two-way forwards
Absolutely.
on this team. They go 4 deep. All 4 of their centers can play a full 200-foot game, whether it be Chris Pelosi, whether it be Vidicek, Varro, or Chernesky, who obviously the captain, who's been playing mostly on the 4th line.
Yeah.
And now having them step up, Tyler Borgula first goal in that game as well. So the entire team, the strength of this team is depth, and have the depth rolling with first years leading the way alongside upperclassmen like Chris Pelosi, who's just a sophomore, but then Jeremy Wilmer as well.
Yeah.
I just think that this team, they can beat anybody, but they can lose to anybody
That
as well
is
at
very
any given
true.
time.
You also want to see them do a little bit better on the power play. They went 2 for 7. Their power play normally in the past has been top of the nation.
Really strong.
Really good penalty kill too. Those numbers have kind of plummeted this year, which kind of is annoying since they've been such that was their standard
That was
for
their
the past
thing.
couple of years. That was their identity.
They are
one could say.
still top 10 in the nation technically from a power play standpoint.
How?
They convert at a 25% rate. The problem is how many
How?
they take. They're
That's
tied
true.
for 9th
Yeah.
with Bowling Green, Dartmouth.
Hold on.
Take
Did you-
that as
hold
you
on.
will. Take
Stop
that
for a
as you
second.
will. Take
Stop
that
for a
as you
second.
will.
Did you just tell me that Bowling Green and Quinnipiac have the same power
Well, so
play
does Dartmouth
percentage?
and Michigan State.
Okay,
So,
but Dartmouth is basically the number 1 team right now compared to the
so,
MPI.
so
They're
then
undefeated
Quinnipiac
right now.
So Quinnipiac has a power play that's just as good as the number 1 team in the country. So
Yeah.
what are you going to diss Bowling
I
Green
guess,
for?
I guess so. I
mean,
Bowling
Wisconsin
Green
has the number 1 power
They
play.
will make a tournament.
Bowling Green will make the tournament
if you
right
look-
here,
They
right
actually
now.
might.
Well,
Honestly.
they went 2 for 7 on the power play against Holy Cross.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Uh-huh.
you'd like to see a couple more of those go in, especially if you score 3 straight.
You're
and then
still
you go to
converting
power
at a
play late.
better than 25% rate. So overall, you're still good. It's just that when you're playing teams that aren't as good as you and you have so many opportunities, you do want to see more. So I agree.
Yeah.
But you talk about top of the nation, their power play is still technically top 10 in the nation.
I want to touch on the fact about Matthew Lansing, too, because this is a guy that played for the United States National Development Program, and everybody thought, okay, National Development, or most people that know hockey look at that and are like, oh, this guy's going to tear it up. I think a lot of people were expecting him to tear it up, and he hasn't in the points aspect, but he is a very, very strong two-way player that is really underrated on the Quinnipiac team, because it's not like he's going to tear up the score sheet every night. He knows his role on the team. He wins faceoffs. He makes the passes, makes the plays that matter, and that's all they really need from him right now.
I think it's just going right back into the fact that the first years have been so sound defensively also when you look at it. I mean, taking Vidicek and went back, for example, they're currently sitting in the positive for plus and minus when it comes to being defensively sound, which not everyone on the team can say. Also, went back with points in the 8 straight games, which is the longest active streak in the country currently. So these first years are putting up points against some of the best players in across the entire country. As Mason Marsalis once said against the Boston University in that press conference, he kept talking about how these first years, they're one of the most talented groups that they've seen going around. They're even struggling to defend them in practice.
Yeah.
So, if your own teammates are struggling to defend against your first years, these first years, they're just going to keep going. And they're just going to keep proving that they are the line on this team that is the one that's really providing and making these wins such statement wins right now.
I think we should touch on the Stonehill game a little bit, the 3-2 win.
Yeah.
But it was a little scary at times for starters. I mean, they scored the first goal out the gates. Marcus Vidicek, of course. You know, we talked about the goal scoring. The goal scoring streak. He's had a goal scoring streak going on. Stonehill scored 2 straight. You know, one in both in the third. So they had a 2-1 lead in the third. And it's kind of held until later in the third where Marcus Vidicek got back on the board again. So he scored both those goals for the Bobcats, really big goals. And Elliot Gronwald ended the game there. And not ended the game, but he scored the game winner.
That's a scary game if you're looking at it from a Quinnipiac fan
definitely.
perspective. I think it's good if you look at the box score, they scored 2 goals in 30 seconds. That is great that they can score at that rate against a Stonehill team that is not the best team in the country, but they did come off of a recent 3-3 tie to UConn, who is a very good team in the NCAA.
Well, we want to touch on that, sorry to cut you off, but Stonehill's won 13-1. That would have been their second win of the season against a ranked Bobcats team.
Yeah.
That is a scary thing to see.
Yeah, especially for Quinnipiac fans as well, because you look at it, you're like, you're up 1-0. Okay, we're up 1, or as a fan, we're up 1-0 at the end of the first period.
Yeah.
Okay, second period, we're still up 1-0 over Stonehill. What's going on? Then you get a notification later on in the third period. Stonehill takes a 2-1 lead.
Oh no!
What?
Yeah.
Oh no!
Oh no!
What?
Hit the panic.
Not this again.
Well, and they beat Stonehill 6-1 last year.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a team that they beat tirelessly, and they beat the brakes off of them every single year. And then you look at it this
do
year,
this every
close
year.
game after close game. No, literally,
They do
close
this
game after close
every
game
year.
after close game. And I feel like it's good to play in close games, but it's not good to play in close games because you need that confidence level when you get towards these better teams that you're going to probably see down the ECAC tournament or the NCAA tournament if they make it there.
Well, I think that the biggest thing that has caught my eye is last year in non-conference games. I'm not counting the Yale non-conference Connecticut
The
Ice
CT
game.
Ice game does
But
not
I'll
count.
count counting the UConn game just in the regular season, not NCAA tournament. Quinnipiac went 5-5 in non-conference games. They're
Wow.
8-2 so far this season,
which is good.
which is good. They've beaten Boston College. They technically beat the University of Maine twice, but one was a shootout, so that's one of the 2-2s. And then they beat Maine. However, a lot of things happened in that 4-0 win.
Oh boy.
Regardless.
Oh, boy, it did
boy.
not
Yeah.
play.
And then a 6-2 win over Boston University. So you've beaten 3 really good hockey East teams, plus you beat the University of New Hampshire.
Yeah.
You did lose to Merrimack, who
That
is
was
feisty.
That was a somewhat
Feisty.
Well,
I would say
Merrimack's a good team.
Feisty.
Well, I would say
Merrimack's a great team.
A great team, but a great
They're
team, yes.
feisty.
They're a very great team that can really win any game.
But I'm saying that this is a team that last year struggled mightily against Hockey East teams and has now kind of turned around against them. Now they're struggling against teams that they beat handily last year. So I don't know. Again, I don't know if I should be concerned or confident on this team to make a run in the tournament because they've looked overall, from a record standpoint, good in non-conference games.
They passed
Well,
the eye test.
Let me jump in here.
Go for
From
it.
Friday until January 17th, when they go to the CT Ice tournament, it is all ECAC games.
Yeah.
They have RPI twice, Union twice, Harvard, Dartmouth, and Colgate. Pick one game out of that ECAC stretch you think will give them or will be the most problematic.
After CT
Oh, we're
Ice?
talking trap games
Before
here.
CT Ice.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I mean, the easy answer, right?
It's
Don't
Dartmouth.
say.
I would say
Okay,
Dartmouth.
but
at
It's
home.
Dartmouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. That game, I mean, looking at the Dartmouth game, as we said earlier, Dartmouth is undefeated right now.
And won 4-2 here last year when they
And
weren't this good.
When they weren't this good, they struggled so much last year, and yet they still came to Hampton. It was a home game, and they beat them 4-2.
And then Quinnipiac had to go to overtime to
Yep.
win at Dartmouth and Hanover 5-4.
Yep.
So I think the easiest answer is Dartmouth.
It's Dartmouth.
Oh, boy. Howdy do I have a different answer for you.
What could you possibly say?
If it's unless you're going to tell me Cornell, which is a
Yale.
ranked game.
Yale?
Stop.
Come
it.
on now.
Come on.
Look,
Wait,
okay.
hold on.
Hold on.
We're not. That's not even in the schedule.
That's not on the schedule.
That's during
That's
CT
past
Ice.
CT Ice. That's past CT Ice.
Yes,
He
you
said
said
before
past
He said
CT Ice.
before
Before
CT.
Oh,
Ice.
oh, oh, oh.
Okay,
oh.
well, I think if you
Before
wanna
CTIs,
talk
then
about a
Cornell.
game-
Then Cornell.
Well, they're ranked, so that's not like a big game where they.
It's a
like,
huge game.
It's
What
not
are
a
you
trap.
talking
It's not a
about?
trap game. It's
It
not a
doesn't
trap
need to
game.
be
They're
a
a
trap
ranked team.
game.
No,
He said,
I-
like,
Dartmouth isn't a trap game
I
either.
think
They're ranked.
I think Union could be a big trap game come up because
Okay.
they gave
I agree
with
they
that.
gave Cornell a good work, a good
a good game, yeah.
Yeah,
They don't even
a good
play
game.
them a good
Cornell.
game.
I don't see them losing to RPI or Union. I understand the trap game aspect of Union, but good teams take care of business and beat the bad teams, even if it's not in great fashion. I don't see them losing to Union or RPI. The Harvard Dartmouth, I don't know. It's a home weekend. I think that's a target where they might drop one, and I also think again Union RPI at home definitely wins in my book.
Yeah.
The Colgate Cornell trip usually a mark up a loss. So I think 2 losses, 6-2, I think is probably the most realistic case scenario in my perspective. But I could easily see a chance where they could go 4-4, and
No,
the
I
only
agree.
4 wins are RPI and Union.
Yeah. I mean,
agree.
it's tough. That weekend is going to be very tough.
So I mean, it's just a great amount of solid opponents now
Yeah.
coming up, and it's going to be interesting to see if they're good because they're battle tested, but they are not ECAC tested yet.
Even though Clarkson was good last year and gave them a scare for the Cleary, the ECAC as a whole is better this year than it was a year ago, even with Clarkson.
and it hurts to see that they got upset by Yale too.
Yeah.
So that was a big one that we all talked about. How many years was it that they? How many? It was
2018,
while.
I believe.
2018
Yeah.
while.
was the last time they lost to Yale.
I think
so,
it was.
I mean,
Was it 17?
It
game
might
win
have been.
streak?
I think
It's
it
either
was a
17 or 18.
It was a 17-game winning streak, and I think it was 2018 was the last loss.
So that doesn't boost your confidence in the ECAC. I mean, you beat Clarkson, you beat St. Lawrence, but St. Lawrence is not the greatest team. And then Clarkson gave you some trouble, so it's good to get that win too.
Yeah.
Well, and then when you look in the standings in conference play, Cornell's 5-1 so far through 6. Dartmouth's 4-0. Harvard's 3-1. Quinnipiac's 3-1. all those teams except for Dartmouth have one loss. Now you have to beat those better teams, whereas in the last few years, Quinnipiac would just beat up on the bad teams, and if you drop a game or two to the good teams, or the better teams, they lost those games against the bad teams. Now you need to beat every single bad team and steal a couple from the Dartmouths and the Harvards, whereas a couple of years ago, those were just the gimme games. So now I still would pick them to win the conference, but I do see that there's more of a chance that they don't this year than in years past.
Do you have a question for us?
I think we should move on to Rebound Rally. Men's basketball, Legends Classic. They go beat Pitt. I don't think anyone expected that, 83 to 75. And then competed with UCF in a 91 to 102 loss. But my question is, going forward, them going 1-1 in this tournament, what does that do for their confidence?
Well, I'll just say, first and foremost, yes, it was a loss to UCF. However, I don't know if I would particularly take it as a loss when you're looking at it for that team.
Absolutely not. That was a great game for them.
They were leading them 52 to 47 at the half. And halfway through the third, they still were ahead of them. It was just in the end that UCF came out on top. But also, one of the biggest things to take away from that UCF game, in my opinion, is Jaden Zimmerman. He came out and he led the team and had a career-high 26 points. And he was one of those big impact players that we've been looking for, because obviously Amari Monroe, he came back this year. It was huge. One of his offers coming from Pitt, so getting that win over Pitt was huge for him. But having Jaden Zimmerman really step out for the team at UCF in that win over them, in the loss, I still think that when they're looking at the score sheet, they really can't indicate that the UCF game was a loss whatsoever.
I think that Jaden Zimmerman has been playing great basketball recently. 26 points, like you mentioned, at UCF. Yesterday against Stonehill, like we're recording this on Monday, so they played Stonehill on Sunday. 22 points, led the team in points. I mean, he played great, honestly. And you look at the UCF game again, specifically, because the Pitt game, like we'll definitely talk about that in a little bit. But the UCF game, I was scrolling Twitter on the day that they played UCF, and I was looking at like UCF accounts and stuff, and their barstool was like, "What is going on right now?
Yeah,
like how are we losing to Quinnipiac? How are we losing to a hockey school?" But then, hold on one second. But there were a lot of people at the end of that game is like, "Wow, thank God we pulled that off," and they were like, "Props to Quinnipiac. That might be our hardest non-conference opponent yet."
Yeah, and also,
I don't agree with that, because loss to Vanderbilt, who was my next question, their only loss was to Vanderbilt, who's a top 25 team in the country. And top 10 in Ken Palm.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt's undefeated.
I was just saying,
yes.
I think it might have been their toughest win of the year.
Maybe toughest, like, oh, we're going to win this game.
Yeah, maybe their whole is like, hold on a second.
It's like,
yeah.
Whoa, what just happened?
But also, because I think it's huge.
I think they did that to St. John's last year, too, where they came out the jump, they hit St. John's unexpectedly. They were winning at half. And, well, obviously the better team's going to come out
Rick
on top.
Rick Pitino was not a happy camper during that game.
Also, I think that going to UCF and only losing by 11 points is huge after seeing their losses to Yale and seeing their losses to St. John's this season alone. I think that when they're looking down the stretch, when they're looking to see if they can make it through Atlantic City and get a ticket to March Madness, these two games are two games that you can look at and say, man, maybe they could pick up their first win of March Madness if they make it there.
Yeah. I think the UCF game is
That's
not
spicy.
just before we get into that, I think the UCF game
That's
is not.
spicy.
You shouldn't be too upset if you're a Bobcat fan, because Amari Monroe shot 5 for 15 and only had 14 points in that game, and that's the MAC Player of the Year. So it's good to see Jaden Zimmerman step up. It's good to see Samson Riley go 5 for 6 from the 3-point line and have
17 shooter in the nation right now.
17 points.
It's great to see Keith McKnight have 11 against that team. Those are first years. I mean, Samson Riley's technically not a first year if you want to look at it, because he redshirted.
It's his first game action.
Yeah.
First
year playing, and he's an assistant captain, and he shows great leadership. I think it's great to see all those players step up for the basketball team when you face a better opponent.
But speaking of stepping up, when you circle back and look at the Pitt game and their win over that, Grant Randall, he chipped in with 15 points and 5 rebounds in that game. So yes, Amari Monroe had 25 points on 9 of 13 shooting, but for the most part, like, he wasn't the only player who was contributing to this team. There was players all across, and all 9 Bobcats that checked into that game, they were on the score sheet.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a everyone eats mentality at
Yeah.
Quinnipiac, where they spread the wealth. Everyone gets in on the scoring. Everyone gets in on the play. It's a great thing where you can go 7, 8 players deep in your bench, and you can still confidently play the game, and you think that you're going to have a chance. We've seen this in the past with St. Peter's in the MAC in March Madness. We've seen them be able to roll out a bench, and obviously they had a great player who took them a long way. But
Dog Eddard.
we've seen this in the past where those 16 seeds in March Madness come out and they can roll 7 to 8 players deep, and they can confidently play and stay in the games like that. And Quinnipiac's shown that they can do that so far.
Yeah. In the KenPom, UCF is ranked 60. Quinnipiac's 174.
Yeah.
So they lost by 11. 11 points separates 60 from 174. That is not a lot at all. And like you said, if a couple more bounces go the Bobcats' way, especially in the second half, they can win that game. And then they pulled off back-to-back wins over opponents that are supposed to be far superior than them.
Big 12 and an ACC.
Exactly. And UCF only losing by 12 to Vanderbilt, who's a top 10 team on KenPom, and in the SEC, just goes to show that at any given time, if Amari Monroe, Jane Zimmerman, and everyone else are rolling, the shots are falling, they can compete against a top team. Absolutely. You said it last year, they competed against St. John's. St. John's, again, one of the better teams. This year didn't pan out that way on the road against St. John's, but I think that's because Rick Pitino had the team ready to go. The Johnnies are ready for the Bobcats this year. When you come to March Madness, whether it's Kentucky, whether it's Auburn, whoever it is, SEC schools, they might be looking over Quinnipiac. They might not be as prepared. Rick Pitino knew to be prepared for Tom Pecora and Quinnipiac. These other teams, they might not be prepared. As Quinnipiac, they just have to get there. Then you can worry about upsetting a team.
Yeah.
They can't get out the MAC.
I just think I want to go back to what Kat said about Grant Randall stepping up. That guy has improved so much from last year. He last year rode the bench pretty much the entire year. Came in like a couple of times during the year where they really, really needed him. This year, he's Tom Pecora's go-to guy in the starting lineup right now, besides Amari Monroe and Jaden Zimmerman. And Asim Jones, played great too. He's been playing great basketball as well. Yeah. Starting 5 might be a conversation in the coming weeks. Who's going to start when? Ty Turnage looks really good right now. Yes, he's a very undersized guard, but Tom Pecora has said he loves the fact that he's becoming a floor general as a first year.
Yeah. No, he's been he's bringing the ball and making all the plays throughout the majority of the games. Take the game yesterday. He was literally running the circles around, getting the ball to Samson O'Reilly, getting the ball to Jaden Zimmerman, who was getting those points into the net.
It's just touching back on the first year's looking absolutely great for the Bobcats. It's really
every team
good to be able to have first years that can go out there and perform on the highest level that they're.
I know that we're not talking women's basketball, but Ella Ryan's looked great for the women's basketball team. All of the winter sports teams' first years look really good right now.
And you want to talk about someone who made a sophomore jump is Jaden Zimmerman. We talked about it. Yeah, he is a viable second option next to Amari Monroe, which is what the Bobcats have kind of failed to have. What do you?
I got like a question a little bit. Okay. And I want to know your guys' opinions on this. Who do you think took the biggest jump, Grant Randall or Jaden Zimmerman?
Zimmerman.
I think Zimmerman. You have to also look at the fact that Zimmerman was also looking at transferring. He didn't, but he was one of those players who could have very easily been gone after last year to look for an opportunity where he can get those more minutes. He recognized that this is a program that he can come back to and really strive in, and he by far has made, in my opinion, one of the biggest jumps from last season to this season throughout the year. Take the UCF game once again, a career high 26 points against one of, as Nafa had just said, one of the top teams in the country. I think it's a huge impact, and for him to be here and to stay here, he by far has made the biggest impact from returning this year.
I think there is an argument to be made.
I don't think it's a huge argument to be made.
I think from my perspective, looking at it, it's that he's got more of an opportunity now. Yeah. I don't think he had as much of a role last year to show Grant Randall. I think that for him, it's now having the opportunity to showcase yourself. For Zimmerman, he's playing a similar role to last year. He's just playing it that much better. That's how I look at it.
Which is why I kind of see the argument between Grant and Jaden Zimmerman is like Grant took the bigger jump in like playing time. But I think in the game, it's very tough to compare the two because they play two different roles in the team.
Absolutely. And I think that this year in particular, one of this team's strong suits is the depth that they have on the bench. As Davila said earlier, kind of talking about how you can get 8 or 9 men deep onto their bench, and they are able to all get onto the scoring sheet. Look, last year, for instance, a lot of the time they were just playing the main starting five. They weren't utilizing that depth that they had on the bench. And then with 4 of those players who they were constantly rotating on the bench along with Amari Monroe now leaving the program or graduating with Savion Lewis or Doug Young or Paulie Otieno and transferring, now having the ability to have and reach for your bench and have that depth on the bench, it's just going to really allow for the entire team as a whole to come out stronger. And yes, Grant Randall is getting more minutes and he's able to make a bigger opportunity going into this year. But that's not just for him, that's for everyone across the board.
I also think, the biggest question for this team moving forward is the center depth and the height that you have. Because you're a really small team. Spence Weiwei hasn't looked the greatest. In the Stonehill game, he played the first 8 minutes, I believe, and then he rode the bench for the whole first half. Came back in, played the first 8 minutes again, then rode the bench for the whole second half. So he played like a total of 17 to 18 minutes that game. He is your biggest question going forward because at the beginning of the season, he's had his early struggles.
Yeah,
I think you got to also look at the fact that Sam Nosakar, who started the season, and Tom Pecora did mention this, that Sam was hurt at the start of the year. Now he's back. This is a first year that comes in from Nigeria and has to really adapt to a brand new program that Tom Pecora is kind of, or not really a brand new program that he's building, but has built over the last couple of years. He could be that starting center in the next couple of weeks. You really don't know what happens. It's just what you lose with Weiwei, him being probably the tallest player in the entire MAC.
Yeah, he's 7 feet tall.
He's 7 foot tall, and then you look at Nosakar, he's only 6'9". So you lose 3 inches of, well,
I know.
You lose 3 inches of height. That's a big thing when it comes to like these tips and these rebounds and everything.
I think that going forward, yes, we will see an impact from him if he keeps being off the bench, if Spence can't keep up with the play. But in the Stonehill game yesterday, it was Sam's first game in. He put up 4 minutes and has not that much to show for it on the stat sheet. However, he was able, earlier, like how we were talking about for turnage, he was able to make those plays in RELP, and he knocked down quite a few balls when it came down to it, because Stonehill at some point was coming back. However, 4 minutes, you got to give what you can at that moment.
How tall is Paul Otieno? He's 6'8". So you can be 6'9" and still be able to grab rebounds.
Exactly.
Especially. So I think that either player, whether it be Nosakar or whether it be Weiwei, can make an impact. The problem is stepping into Otieno's shoes and filling that void.
It's very
that left,
tough.
Especially first year or not, because Weiwei didn't play that much last year either.
Yeah, Weiwei played like nothing last year.
I don't think he got in.
He wasn't.
Well, he was hurt basically the entire year.
Yeah,
too,
he was recovering.
So you're asking him to fill an all-MAC first teamers spot. I don't know how reasonable that is to assume that they can do it, and I don't think they do think that they are going to fill everything that Otieno left behind. No. However, if this team does want to compete for a MAC title again and potentially go to March Madness, never mind win a game in March Madness, they're going to need more production out of their bigs, especially from the center position, because you can't do it all, especially if you don't rebound. One of the biggest things in postseason basketball is not only just rebounding, but offensive rebounding, creating second chance points. So if they are going to need one of, both of, or someone else to step up if they want a chance to go far in the postseason.
Well, I think that the Bobcat, the basketball team has had probably the best possible situation that they could have been in from last year. Because if you looked at it last year, when the Amari Monroe news was breaking, when the Jaden Zimmerman news was breaking, when all of that was breaking out, and it was a you didn't know what was going to happen, because Amari Monroe was hitting the transfer portal. Obviously, he ended up going back to Quinnipiac, and so did Jaden Zimmerman. And it's the culture that they built here, and they're 5-3, and those teams that they've lost to, they're really good teams. Like we talked about, they lost to St. John's. They lost to Yale, which Yale made the tournament last year, and they lost to UCF. UCF is 7-1. They only lost to Vanderbilt. They beat Pitt. That they're not a top ACC school, but they're a good ACC school, and that's their first ACC win in
program history.
History.
And I agree completely. And starting, like you said, 5-3 on the season before even hitting MAC play, because that's what they'll open up their MAC play this Friday with Iona. I think that overall, looking at the teams that they lost to, you got to give it to the Bobcats here, because by far they've had a good start, and it's a promising start heading into the MAC season as the reigning regular season champions. Obviously, they can't get over that semifinals hump right now in Atlantic City, it seems like. However, going in starting their MAC season at Iona, it's going to be an interesting tank.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be interesting how they handle the pressure of being in New Rochelle, too, because that's a road trip that is very tough for teams. It's a late game, too, so you got to take the bus all the way up there and then just kind of settle down and get ready for that game.
Yeah.
So they have 2 MAC games, Iona, Rider, and then they continue non-conference play, UMass Lowell, Monmouth, Hofstra. Then they get back into MAC play for the rest of the year. But Iona this year, I believe, new coach, right? New coach
this year because
Tobin Anderson's gone. So that's a new program too. So this is a moment for both programs to kind of just set themselves right for the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because that's going to be a rematch of the semifinals at Atlantic City.
Yep.
That's what I was just about to say. That's the revenge game. I think yes, they're making the travel. Yes, they might be a little bit tired, but that's who knocked them out of the tournament. That's who killed their hopes last year. This is generally a lot of the same team, like Amari Monroe. That's his dream. That's what he wanted to go do. He wanted to go play in the tournament, and Iona was in his way, and he wasn't able to get over the hump there. So I think that he's gonna come out and he's gonna have a really good game, maybe a season high game this week. And then Jaden Zimmerman too. I mean, same thing. He killed his hopes there, and Iona killed their hopes, and they need to come out and they're gonna make a statement win in the MAC, I think.
Yeah, the only loss that was maybe concerning was the Yale one, where I think they were leading 24-23 and got outscored. I think it was 74-36 over the rest of the game. So outside of that one game, it's been a very promising start so far for the men's basketball team.
Yeah, they've had great success.
And speaking about revenge games, maybe not revenge for Quinnipiac, but certainly for Rider in the volleyball MAC tournament semifinals, where Quinnipiac lost to Rider 1-3. Quinnipiac finishes the season 19-12. Fairfield then beats Rider in the championship, and Fairfield didn't lose a set in the MAC tournament.
Shocker.
Yeah, no surprise there.
Yeah.
No surprise.
So talk to me about what went wrong for Quinnipiac against Rider.
I think I can pretty much summarize it in 2 words. Quinnipiac Santiago. 30 kills for the MAC Player of the Year for Rider. She had an insane topspin serve that I think kind of shocked the Bobcats because they didn't really they don't see topspin serves often. Yes, Quinnipiac Santiago's serves went out of bounds, but you see the MAC Player of the Year on the other side. You know it's the MAC Player of the Year, and you see that serve coming at you at maybe 60+ miles an hour. That is a really tough thing to think about. Or maybe not 60, but definitely up there in speed as one of the faster volleyball serves that I've personally seen. I was there in Fairfield, and when I was watching the game, if I'm sitting in Quinnipiac's shoes there, I am horrified seeing that thing come at me and knowing that could probably go in bounds. But honestly, Quinnipiac for that game, they did not look like Quinnipiac at all. Elena Giacomini was probably the only player on the Bobcats that looked really good. I thought, honestly, when you look at this game, and Ginevra Giovaglione, she had an amazing career at Quinnipiac. Yes, she came back from injury this year and was kind of struggling with all of that. But honestly, I can't really beat around the bush. This was her worst game that I think that I've ever seen her play.
I think as a whole, though, the team just really struggled when it came to it. I mean,
yeah, it's not just Ginevra's fault.
No,
at
absolutely
all.
not. Absolutely not. I just think that going into this game, they also kind of had an ego and they had a chip on their shoulder when they were going to this game. I mean, you
said it yourself, Rossi.
Yeah,
the biggest
they beat
thing.
Rider in straight sets for both of their matches this season. They went on in October 3-0 and then in November 3-0 as well. So then going to the MAC semifinals, you go in thinking, well, we already beat this team in straight sets, and then what happened.
We're getting ready for Fairfield.
We're getting ready for Fairfield. They thought they were going to just be able to jump over. That first set looked okay. They looked fine in the first set, but even that wasn't the Bobcats that we've been seeing play all season.
Well, that was the biggest thing. I'm sorry to interrupt you. That was the biggest thing from Quinnipiac that I saw when I talked to them prior to the tournament. Every single one of them, when we interviewed them, we're just looking at Fairfield. We're just looking at Fairfield. We're ready for the MAC championship to get Fairfield. Got to make it there first.
Yeah.
You got to make it there first. Because even though you beat Rider in straight sets this year, that is a really good Rider team that made it to the MAC championship. beat Siena, beat the brakes off of Siena up at Ryder. But you look at that team for Ryder, it's Keanisha Santiago that really gave the Bobcats the biggest trouble. And for Quinnipiac, they lost the mental game. And Kyle Robinson got out-coached in that game. Mm-hmm. They got outplayed, out-coached, and just out-muscled, honestly, because you go into that game and you're just thinking about Fairfield. You're not going to beat the team that's on the other side of the court. You got to worry about the next game. Next game mentality. We hear Rand Pecknold and Cass Turner talk about it all the time for hockey. Next game mentality. Doesn't matter who we're playing or who they're playing. You got to win the next game, and they didn't. And that's why they're out.
I think that the biggest thing that sunk them, in my opinion, is a one-word answer, and it's errors.
Yeah.
They had, outside of the first set where Ryder had 5 errors to Quinnipiac's 3, Quinnipiac had double the errors of Ryder in every set or more. In that third set, which was really the most crucial set, you lost the second set 25-23 if you're Quinnipiac. You need that third set. They had rallied back, got it all the way back. I believe it was 23-23, correct? And then a service error to go down 24-23. It was like the balloon had been getting blown up, and then someone took a needle and just popped it. All the momentum went out the window just like that.
In set 2?
In set 3. In set 3. Quinnipiac had rallied back. They had a deficit. Got it back to, I think it was 23-23. Service error. Go down 24-23. Lose on the next point.
Yep. Service error from Corolla.
They had 9 errors in that set alone. That was triple Ryder's 3. That right there was basically what lost you the match. Losing that set put them back, and then in the fourth set, it wasn't even that competitive.
They came all the way back in that third set, like you mentioned, and then the last 3 points, they were up 23-22. Yep. Last 3 points, attack error, service error, or no, service ace. Sorry, they got aced.
Yep.
To make it 24-23, and then attack error to drop the set. That is deflating.
So they were up 23-22, and then had the
error, ace, error.
Yeah. So that right there, 2 errors in the final 3 points. Yeah. That does your season in right there.
Yep.
Yeah. They made the mistakes themselves and easily could have been avoided, and probably realistically should have been playing Fairfield, but because of that, not much you can do when you have 28 errors in 4 sets.
Agreed.
Now let's take a look down the line, look into the future. Next year, how do you think they're going to rebound? Do they rebound? You know, what are your thoughts on how they respond next year?
Yeah, well, I can start this off. It's tough because the way Kyle Robinson put it at the end of the Ryder game when we spoke to him after, you lose 6 program changing players.
Yeah.
You lose Yammer Ganesh. You lose Damla Ganesh. You lose Ginevra Giovaglione. You lose Elena Giacomini, Milena Silva, and Tuana Turan. Yes, Tuana didn't play that much for the volleyball team, but she changed that locker room environment. She is the most energy of anyone that they really met on that team. And you lose the program's first MAC Player of the Year ever.
Yeah.
You lose the setter of the year for the last 3 years. That is a detrimental loss. Not saying that they're not going to recover, but look at the team's depth next year. Leilani Kaijusta, Carola Negron-Diaz will play libero. Vittoria Tonelli, Asia Belli, both of them played very, very good this year as first years. Clara Ozuska, who played really well. Now who else? Who else? You got your setter, you got your liberos, you got your hitters, and then your middle blocker. All right, who else you putting in that lineup? Because nobody else saw time during the year.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out, to say the very least, because you're losing a lot of people who set the program standard here, and it
absolutely,
it just hurts a lot to see all them go.
And even like looking across the MAC, obviously, if we keep talking about Fairfield, they're only losing 3 starters.
Yeah.
So they're still going to be a top competitor when it comes to Quinnipiac going into next year. And I think that is going to be very interesting to see how they can recover. I think a lot of sports in the fall are going to have to try and figure out a way to recover with the absence with a lot of graduating seniors, like the women's soccer team. Obviously, we're not talking about them right now, but I think that it's going to be very interesting to see how they can recover. And it's those first few games are going to be the real teller for them.
And I think that Kyle Robinson is still confident in his team.
Absolutely.
He's very confident that they're going to try and get back to where they were. And I think that he's confident that the first years from this past year will make an impact. But you look back at Fairfield, they lose Abby Jandro, Maya Walker, and Allie Elliott. 3 huge names, 3 captains on that team. But they don't lose Mamie Krabali, who's probably the second best player in the MAC this year, or third best player in the MAC this year, behind Elena Giacomini and Kianisha Santiago. So they're not losing a lot, like you said, Kat.
And also for Quinnipiac side, Giacomini, Silva, and the Gunesh sisters, that's 4 of your 5 most played players. The only person outside of those 4 in the top 5 is Asia Belli. So
yeah, Azia Belli.
Azia Belli.
MAC player of the year is gone. You're losing your setter.
MAC player of the year, 3-time setter of the year.
Yeah.
And
all-time setter record.
Exactly.
Like, all-time assist record. Sorry, not setter.
Yeah.
And
I
even though
think it's very close. I don't think that she set the all-time assist record, but she
is it
did
the
set the
D1?
D1 record. I know that for a fact.
And even
they
though
need to update the record book, though, for her assists because she, again, killed it this year.
even though
She had a great
Giovaglione
year.
didn't play as much this year, still preseason MAC player of the year last year before the season, and one of the better players in program history as well. Losing those players and the amount of time that they played the majority of the sets, the majority of the matches.
Yeah.
You lose so much of that depth and playing time that now players going to have to play a role that they didn't have to play this year or hadn't played in a year or 2 years. So I don't know if they can rebound quite as well as Kyle Robinson would hope that they would.
But I think Kyle Robinson earned Coach of the Year for a reason, honestly. And the players that were on the team this year have said how much of a good coach he is, how much they really impacted his life. So I think that if you're talking MAC Coach of the Year for Kyle Robinson and he's retaining that for this coming year, if they have a really good year, I mean, it would not shock me if they're back within like next year or the year after that when they're more mature.
Don't know how the first-year class is going to look.
You never know.
They're supposed to be a really good, strong first-year class. So if they come out from the gates like we looked at the hockey team, we looked at the basketball teams, what if they come out and start playing like that? Then it's a completely different landscape out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. That was awesome. Got to talk about a lot of great stuff. And, you know, we have a break coming up, but second semester we'll be back.
Yeah.
A lot of new faces. Can't wait for that. Shout out to Trent producing. We had goodness here earlier on audio. And thank you guys so much for coming on. That was a blast.
No, of course. It was a blast being back
much
and
fun.
great to be with these guys. This is awesome.
Glad to be here. Glad to be
This is
here.
a good one.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. Peace.